feel like saying, it's good to hear your voice, and yours too. On occasion, when I'm alone, I take the phone out, put it on speaker mode, I turn it up, and then I play Albert Camus' acceptance speech at the Nobel Prize event. A strange thing happens, of course, only in my mind. It's as if the vegetation, the birds, the bees, and sometimes even the aquatic, they come to the surface. And with the sound of Albert Camus' sonorous voice reverberating, there forms a unity, a synchrony, as if we have joined together to enjoy the spirit of this momentous occasion from Camus' life. I know it sounds silly. One of the last few words in Albert Camus' novel titled The Stranger is our hero Meursault. He's thinking to himself, only one thing left for me to do. I had only to wish there be a large crowd of spectators on the day of my execution, and they greet me with cries of hate. Cries of hate? Pretty heavy, don't you think? I guess it's the gravity of the situation. Why would he think that, though? It's the end of the novel. We are left to imagine. I guess there are several ways one could go with that. For me, I think of the ritual of sacrifice. You know, the stories of when bad luck befalls a community. It could be any number of reasons. Drought, an illness epidemic. A large number of the settlement is affected, and the general mood becomes one of unhappiness, anger, petulance. And an event like this, a public execution of a condemned man, plays as an antidote. It's a channel for expiation of this communal angst. I think that's what Meursault is saying here, because he already got a taste of the hate coming at him during the court proceedings. He's ready for a new beginning, and he wants his final act to be one of gratuity. He's willing to rid the community of this excess baggage of negativity. Anyway, that's what comes to my mind. There are some other lines which are quite interesting, not as heavy. For example, when Celeste, the restaurant owner, his friend, is offering his testimony, Meursault is so moved by his gesture, his friendship, his integrity, his willingness to stand up for justice as well as for his friend. He thinks to himself, for the very first time in my life, I wanted to kiss a man. Close friendships make you feel that way, I suppose. Here's the thing that sometimes goes unnoticed. I think if Meursault was taken from the scene of the crime, because there were plenty of witnesses, it was a public area, he was taken straight to the gallows and executed. Perhaps he would have been okay with that. That's what you call misfortune, he might have said. But the courtroom drama, it gives him hope that perhaps if he explained himself, there might be a chance of clemency. Then there's Salamano, the man with the dog, Meursault's neighbor. He appeals to the court, the jury. He says, things happen. People grow apart. It's normal. You cannot judge a man's character by the way he behaved at his mother's funeral. You must understand, he pleads, but nobody understands. Then there's Perez. You know who that is? Meursault's maman's fiancé. They portray him as a man who's constantly exhausted, overcome with fatigue because of his age. It plays counter to the image of Romeo. He has to be helped up to the witness box. He too is asked, did Meursault cry at the funeral? And he says, no. There's cross-examination, and he agrees. Yes, it's possible that he cried. I wouldn't know. Here the lawyer for the defense interjects. He turns to the jury and somewhat in an exaggerated tone says, here we have the perfect reflection of this entire trial. Everything is true, and yet nothing is true. To me, what's really happening with the prosecution is they turn this whole case against Merceau by utilizing irony. You know how irony can turn truth into a falsehood, especially when you're playing to an audience predisposed against Merceau. I could go on and on about Albert Camus and his life and his work, but I think I'll bring the series to a close. Perhaps just one more video, and that is to talk about the sun and the sea and how they appear as symbols in Camus' work, his life, and no less in the story of the stranger, which I'll focus on. That would make it a clean dozen. 1 dozen for Monsieur Albert Camus.